Welcome to the Ask Junior Daily Judgment Podcast. I'm Priya Sharma, and joining me today is Arjun Gupta.
Hello, everyone. We're excited to dive into today's important judgments. But before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our podcast if you enjoy our daily legal breakdowns.
That's right. Your support helps us reach more listeners and continue providing in-depth analysis of the latest court decisions. Now, let's get started with today's case. Hongkong and Shanghai Banking Corp. Limited versus Awaz Ors.
A mouthful of a name, but it's a case that touches on crucial issues surrounding credit card interest rates and the delicate balance between consumer rights and the regulatory authority of the Reserve Bank of India.
Let's break it down. This case stems from a collection of civil appeals, all originating from a judgment delivered by the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, NCDRC, back in 2008. This NCDRC decision was specifically addressing a case involving a group of borrowers claiming they were being charged exorbitant interest rates on their credit cards.
The main players here are Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation Limited, who were the appellants, and a group led by Awaz representing individual borrowers who were the respondents.
The heart of the matter was the respondents' argument that the banks were charging usurious interest rates, ranging from 36% to 49% per annum, claiming this was an unfair trade practice.
Imagine you're charged 36% interest just because you missed your credit card payment by a few days. It sounds pretty alarming, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The banks, on the other hand, argued that the NCDRC had overstepped its jurisdiction by interfering with the determination of interest rates. They claimed that the Reserve Bank of India had exclusive authority over this domain and that the banks were operating within the framework of RBI guidelines.
So, we have a classic clash: consumer rights versus the authority of the RBI in regulating the banking sector. This brings us to the key legal questions at the heart of the case.
Exactly. The Supreme Court, in its final judgment, had to address several key issues. 1. Did the respondent organization Awaz have the right to approach the NCDRC in the first place? This is about locus standi, which means the legal right to bring a claim before a court. 2. Did the NCDRC have the authority to interfere with banking operations, a realm that the RBI is supposed to regulate exclusively? 3. Did the NCDRC have the right to impose a maximum ceiling rate on interest charged by banks on their credit card holders? Did the NCDRC's decision interfere with the contracts signed between the parties, the banks, and the borrowers? Did the bank's interest rate practices, as determined by the RBI, constitute an unfair trade practice?
These are really complex questions that have far-reaching implications for both consumers and the financial sector.
Absolutely. The Supreme Court's decision, delivered in December 2024, addressed each of these questions meticulously. They found that Awaz as a trust did not qualify as a consumer under the Consumer Protection Act and therefore lacked locus standi. This basically means they didn't have the legal right to file a complaint in this case.
This raises a critical point about consumer protection laws. Not everyone can just file a lawsuit. There are specific requirements and legal standing needed to bring a case before the court.
Precisely. This brings us to the heart of the judgment, the role of the RBI. The Supreme Court emphasized that the RBI is the primary regulator of the banking sector and has exclusive authority over interest rates. This is enshrined in the Banking Regulation Act 1949.
This is similar to how the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, in the U.S. regulates the safety of food and drugs. The RBI is the watchdog for the banking industry, ensuring fair practices and financial stability.
The court ruled that the NCDRC's interference with interest rate determination was an overreach, violating the established legal framework. In essence, the court felt that the RBI was best placed to handle issues of excessive interest rates.
Imagine if you're a consumer who feels a bank is charging unfair interest rates. You could file a complaint with the RBI, who has the experience and resources to investigate and potentially take action.
Exactly. This is where the concept of jurisdiction comes into play. The court found that the NCDRC had no jurisdiction or authority to intervene in matters that fell under the RBI's purview.
Now let's get into the specifics of interest rate charges. The court found that the NCDRC couldn't redefine the terms of the contracts between the banks and the borrowers unless there were demonstrably unfair terms or evidence of deception.
Think of it like this. When you sign up for a credit card, you agree to the terms and conditions, including the interest rates. These terms are usually spelled out clearly, so you know what you're getting into. The court recognized that the banks had adhered to the RBI's guidelines in setting their interest rates and that borrowers had willingly accepted these terms.
This gets at the concept of contractual freedom. Individuals are generally allowed to enter into contracts that they feel are beneficial to them. It's their responsibility to read and understand the terms of the agreement before they sign.
The court also considered the legislative intent behind the Banking Regulation Act. It was designed to empower the RBI to regulate the banking sector and promote a stable financial market. The NCDRC's attempt to impose a maximum ceiling on interest rates, the court felt, would disrupt this balance.
This decision has significant implications for consumers and banks alike. It reaffirms the RBI's role as the primary regulator of the banking sector and its authority to set guidelines for interest rates. It also underscores the importance of consumers thoroughly understanding the terms and conditions of any financial product they choose to use.
Ultimately, this decision serves as a reminder of the importance of a clear legal framework in maintaining stability in the financial sector while also protecting consumer rights.
Before we wrap up, it's important to remember that this is just one legal judgment. There are always various perspectives and ongoing debates within the legal landscape. It's essential to stay informed and be aware of the evolving legal context.
And that wraps up our analysis of today's judgment. We hope you found our discussion informative and engaging.
Before we sign off, we'd like to remind our listeners once again to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue bringing you daily updates on the most important legal decisions.
Absolutely. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow for another exciting episode. Until then, this is Priya Sharma.
And Arjun Gupta, signing off. Thanks for listening to the Ask Junior Daily Judgment podcast.